Sometimes you come across a piece of ancient poetry that's so cryptic, but also so profound that it just sticks with you. Well, today we're diving into one of the most beautiful and mysterious passages in the entire Bible. It's a poem all about our final moments, and what it reveals about life, death, and what comes next, well, it's truly fascinating. Let's decode it together. So right out of the gate, we're hit with these powerful, almost surreal images. A snapped silver cord, a broken golden bowl. It's obviously talking about a final, decisive end, right? But what do these metaphors actually mean? It's like we've been handed this ancient riddle we need to solve.
And yeah, that really gets us to the big question here. What is this silver cord? And what can its breaking, along with all these other images, teach us about the final moments of life? That's what we're going to figure out.
All right, so to really get this poem, we've got to break it down piece by piece. The writer uses these four really distinct metaphors, and each one paints a picture of just how sudden and, well, irreversible the end of our earthly life is. Let's dig into them, one by one. Okay, first up, the silver cord. Now, what the sources seem to agree on is that this represents life itself, that super delicate, almost invisible thread that connects our physical body to our spirit, our consciousness, and once it snaps, that connection is gone, forever. It's a really powerful way to show just how fragile our grip on life actually is.
Then we have the golden bowl. And the word gold here, that's not an accident. It's meant to convey immense value, dignity. We're not just talking about any old container. This is probably talking about our most vital, most precious parts. The brain, our command center, or the heart. And the point is pretty profound. Even the most priceless parts of us will eventually break.
All right, the third image. A shattered pitcher at a fountain. Now think about it. Throughout ancient literature, water is this huge symbol for life, for vitality. And a pitcher, that's how you get the water. So when it shatters, our ability to draw strength from earthly things is just gone. The well might still be there, but our own personal cup is broken for good. And last, we have the broken wheel at the cistern. This was part of the whole machine, the system, that pulled water up from a deep well. This represents all the complex systems inside our bodies, and honestly, all of our human ingenuity that keep us going. But in the end, even those systems fail. So all four of these metaphors, they're all pointing to the same inescapable truth. Death is this final, total break from life as we know it here on Earth. Okay, so after painting this incredibly vivid picture of physical death, the poem totally pivots. It shifts from all this poetic imagery to a really direct statement about what happens in that exact moment of death. And honestly, this is the line that unlocks everything. And here it is. This is the absolute key. The body and the spirit, which were together in life, they go to two completely different places. So it's not the end of existence, not at all. It's more like a great separation. Each part has its own path.
And you can see these two different fates laid out so clearly. On the one hand, you've got the physical body, the dust, which goes back to the earth. This idea goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. But the spirit, our consciousness, our real self, it doesn't just poof out of existence. Nope. It returns to its source, God. And that implies way more than just continued existence. It implies accountability. This whole idea of the spirit returning to God, it's actually a foundational piece of a much bigger theological puzzle. And that puzzle has a name. It's called eschatology. Think of it like an ancient map for what happens after our personal world comes to an end.
So yeah, just to make sure we're all on the same page here, eschatology is basically the study of end things. And it's not just about some far-off end-of-the-world scenario. It's about the very personal journey of the soul after death. And this passage from Ecclesiastes, it gives us the very first step on that journey.
So when you take this passage and connect it with other writings, theologians have kind of pieced together this sequence of events. First, there's death itself. That's the spirit and body separating. Second, the spirit goes into what's called an intermediate state, where it's consciously with God, waiting for what's next. Then, down the line, there's a resurrection of the body, and finally, a final judgment where every single soul is held accountable. And Ecclesiastes is what really sets up this whole framework. Now, if you've ever read the book of Ecclesiastes, you know it's pretty sober. It doesn't pull any punches. It lays out some really hard truths, and this profound problem about how fleeting life is. But what's so fascinating is how this Old Testament problem basically sets the stage for a New Testament answer. And wow, when you put them side by side, the contrast is just stark. Ecclesiastes lays out the human dilemma, right? Life is short, death is a sure thing, and judgment is coming. It's heavy stuff.
But then the New Testament comes in and responds to each of those points directly. It offers resurrection as the answer to death, redemption as the answer to judgment, and the promise of eternal life as the answer to our temporary existence.
And this whole idea just builds and builds until it culminates in this incredible triumphant declaration from the Apostle Paul. He basically stands up and taunts death, saying its power is broken. This is the ultimate comeback to the bleakness of that snapped silver cord and broken golden bowl.
So, okay, we've gone from this ancient, cryptic poem all the way to some pretty grand theology. But the writer of Ecclesiastes pulls us right back down to earth, to one urgent, very personal point. This isn't just about abstract concepts. It's about you. It's about me. And this quote from one of the sources we looked at, man, it just hits the nail on the head. We can spend so much time thinking about these global end-time scenarios, but the most immediate, the most certain end-times event for every single one of us is our own death. It's about the end of our world.
So what's the big takeaway here? What are we supposed to do with all this? Well, this ancient poem really boils it all down to a few core truths. Our bodies, they're temporary. Our spirit, our true self, that's eternal. Judgment, or accountability before God, it's unavoidable. And because of all that, being ready for that moment isn't something we can just put on the back burner. It's urgent.
You know, the whole passage, the whole poem is framed by one simple command: remember your Creator. And it's not just a nice little suggestion. It's a powerful, urgent call to live our lives with an awareness of eternity. So the final question this ancient poem leaves us with isn't for theologians or philosophers. It's for each of us personally. Are you ready for the snapping of your own silver cord? Are you ready for your final chapter?